Today on the Failing Up podcast, we have Rob Talbott, an operating principal with Keller Williams. Rob discusses his perspective on failure, seeing it as foundational for success and an opportunity for growth. The conversation delves into the importance of humility, learning from failures, and the delicate balance between embracing failure as a learning experience and avoiding a mindset of perpetual failure. Rob also shares insights from coaching and personal experiences, highlighting the value of feedback and the cultural acceptance of failure in certain domains, like sports and fitness, compared to business. Let's jump in.
Welcome back to our next episode of the Failing Up podcast, Humble Lessons in Life and in Business. My name's David Huffaker. I'm the owner and operator of a couple of real estate platforms and teams in the Middle Tennessee area. We serve the entire Southeast, Central Time Zone, Eastern Time Zone, pretty much anywhere someone will let us be a part of their life and we can add value. We like to get into business with folks and help them build wonderful real estate teams with my business partner and co-host, Bethany Boyce. Bethany, what's up?
How are you? Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're like several episodes in. We're making it.
I love doing these though. They're so much fun.
It is.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite days every few months when we get to come sit in the studio. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. If you've been a part of our episodes in the past, you know that we love to have conversations with top business performers around their failures, around how they navigated challenges and strategies to ultimately reach the pinnacle of success in many of their worlds. Today we're with my friend Rob Talbott. Rob, what's up, brother?
How are you, sir?
How are you?
Doing very well.
Awesome.
Here with you all.
Yeah, we're here. You want to take a minute and introduce yourself? Let our listeners know why you're so cool.
Why I'm so cool? Well, first of all, I'm David's friend. So gotten to know him over the last few years and have a lot of respect for him. So thank you for having me. Yeah. My name's Rob Talbott. Like he had mentioned, I'm an operating principal with Keller Williams, and I also have some market centers that I own and operate. I also hold a position within Keller Williams as a MAPS leadership coach, so I'm meeting out with leaders such as yourself and counterparts and helping them grow their business. So, I'm a husband and father of 4.
Just do a little bit of everything,
yeah,
don't you, Rob?
a little bit of it all.
I love it.
You're a husband of 4?
A husband, comma, father of 4.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Comma.
Yeah,
That's why commas are so important.
I'm still waiting for you to fix me as a leadership coach. I'm still waiting for that wisdom to be like, yeah, David, here's all the things you're doing wrong.
It's not for lack of trying, right, Rob?
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. Well, man, thanks for joining us today. Love to start out and just pick your brain a little bit. I know you've had tremendous success leading market centers, leading agents. You are one of the few people I know that have such a knowledge base of how to be successful in business, and you articulate it so well. I love listening to you talk to agents and your ability to really help them thrive. But when we think in terms of failure, right, and you see failure in this industry, what do you think of? What does that mean to you when we talk about failure?
So it's interesting that you asked that question, because as I was thinking about that, listening to one of the previous podcasts, I just kind of laughed to myself, going, "Man, the list of failures that I have! Like, if there's anything that makes me stand a little tall, it's the pile of failures that I that I stand on top of." Yeah, and you ever see those little memes or whatever, where the guy's like looking over the fence, and the blocks that he's standing taller on are just this list of failures that I have. So I think of failures as a couple different things. Number one is with reflection, getting a little older, have a little more tenure under my belt, and I've done several businesses that have had some great days and some bad days. And I look back at my highest highs, let's just start with that, and I can almost in every instance take the springboard that is based on a major failure that created that highest high. That started to change my perspective. After you need a couple of those first before you can go, well, you can learn from each one. It's a very cliche statement until you've got some perspective. Yeah. Every single one of those highest highs, I can look back and say, wow, that failure loaded the spring to opening the door to that opportunity, whether it was my motivation, whether it was the drastic need for correction, whatever that failure created in the learning lesson that then opened the door to something that maybe was a high point in my life or a success point, whether it's making money or some achievement. Every single one of those I can list back to a failure. So I have a different relationship with failure now, and even hopefully 10 years from now, that I did in my 20s and my 30s, early on in building something. Because when you're failing only, it's very difficult to realize that these are foundational blocks to helping you grow. You just feel like a failure.
Yeah.
Right? But secondly, I think that in failure, like as any entrepreneur, any achiever, whether it's in, gymnastics or sports, or in this case, real estate and business, it's important for us that have been down a path a little further to pour into the people that are still where we were, and encourage them, not only with our knowledge and our wisdom, but showing them where the tripwires are, and maybe like a toddler learning to walk, right? We want to let them fail a little bit, let them fall a little bit in a controlled environment where we can help them learn from it.
Yeah.
That would be something, if I could pass it along to my kids, to coworkers, is that ability to reflect and say, man, today was a bad day. What did I learn? And have an objective mindset to, how could I get just a little better tomorrow based on what I learned today? And, with my 16-year-old son, let's say, it's very difficult for him to look at certain failures and say, whoa, how is this a learning opportunity?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Like, as you progress, as you develop in your business, you get a little bit of a safety net. Maybe that's a better way to say it, right? You get some failures under your belt, and you realize, like, the world's not going to end, right? Like, this too shall pass type thing. It reminds me almost of some self-inflicted ones for us, right? I mean, you think about Level 8 is actually the product of us being concerned about the shifting market a couple of years ago and trying to wire around it. And I think in that moment a few years ago, I can look back and say, like, we made some decisions to get out of business with some people. And you and I always have this debate, like, was that the right decision with those folks? And we put some self-inflicted pain, and yet, had we not been willing to explore other options, right? Had we just tried to stay in, let's put our head down, let's just try to sell real estate, Level 8 wouldn't have come out of that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then you look back at, I mean, our first 12 months, every month we're looking at each other going, like, are we crazy? Like, is this, like, this isn't what we thought it was going to be?
If you're not asking yourself that question, like,
well,
are you really even?
You just said this, right? I mean, and I think back on our last 12 months, especially in building Level 8, I know I did. Maybe I'm hoping you were there with me, saying, like, you stack enough failures on top of each other and you start to go, I think I am the failure, right? Like, so how do you, I mean, I know for us, we've had that, like, I mean, I think I went to David probably in that 12 months a couple times, said it might be me, right? Like, I may be the problem inside of this. And this is why we keep failing and failing and failing as we're building. And so there's really this, like, how do you grab onto failure and go, hey, this is how I learn, this is how I grow, without adopting this mindset of, like, I am the failure, I have become this.
That's a great perspective, and I think that's a delicate, slippery slope of this license to fail. Like, well, I'm learning from my failures.
Yeah.
No, you're just stacking them up, man. You're not building anything from it. So I think that the skill set in that comes with the ability to objectively look in the mirror, to look at something and say, how is it that I can get 1% better at what just happened today? How can I organize these failures to where they're just not a pile of bricks that's dangerous, but actually in some type of organized fashion that I can stand on top of them and be a little taller?
Yeah.
That is something that a lot of people don't learn from. They have the cliche statement, but they don't have that ability to sit down, write what went well, what did not, and then objectively observe that. And this is another piece too, is to humble yourself enough to reach out to someone that might be further down the path and invite what we feel like is criticism, but it's objective critiquing.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important distinction with, criticism just feels like negativity, where critiquing is something that you see, like dance instructors or some type of choreographer comes in and they're critiquing, they're helping you discover the perfection within your steps.
Love it.
And that takes a bit of humility when you're first getting into that
100%.
coaching, to be vulnerable enough to say, here's what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, I think that humility is important. I also think that sometimes you're just been hit so many times that you get angry, right? And you literally, like, there are a lot of my rebounds from failure is out of just pure frustration and will to go, like, this isn't working, something has to work. And maybe it's just stubbornness, not willing to give up. Maybe sometimes I should have. But I say, like, you do something long enough, you're actually going to start getting pretty decent at it. I coach baseball, and I was watching this video from the Savannah Bananas, right? And it was this guy kind of saying, like, how do you learn to catch a pop fly while doing a backflip, right? Like, these guys on the field, right? They have done for baseball what a lot of people, just an amazing impact on the sport overall.
Yeah.
And his conversation was more around us as coaches and as parents to our kids around they're only allowed to do that at the Savannah Bananas because their leadership and their owners give them the freedom to fail. And they say, you're not going to catch that ball
The first time.
many times, right? But when you do, it's going to be
It's
nuts.
so fun.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it is going to be so awesome. And giving them the space to go like, try it, right? If you do it and you miss, so what? You missed, right?
So close.
And so I found myself the last few games with my son, right? I coach first and he'll be up to bat and I'm like, freedom to fail, baby. Freedom to fail,
Yeah.
right? Like you take this right
have
here, this
fun.
year. But then, then my brain starts going, am I putting the wrong words into his mind, right? Should it be freedom to succeed, right? Like, should I say, like, you have the space to do what you want? I want him to know that no matter what he does up there, he's still a great ball player, right? That I still love him, that he has. But I don't want him to take it as, well, I just now have carte blanche to just always screw up without learning from it or without getting
the license
better.
to failure versus
Yeah. And so it's that, I think like with our kids, right? We're just so trying to give them just the right amount, right? What's the right amount of pain or of failure so that they can learn from it? And so, again, I think with anybody, having a coach, having someone by your side that's kind of walking you through, not just, it's so easy right now, our industry has lost the value of this, right? You can hop on YouTube, you can hop on 4,000 different trainings, but if you're not getting that critique, right? If you're not getting that coach that's actually poking you in a few uncomfortable places to try to get you to move better down the path, I think you're missing a huge piece of it. You're not going to get it just from watching. You got to play.
Yeah, and using the sport metaphors, right? Children's sports, there's some great learnings in there. I was recently thinking about how there's some industries, there's some, spaces, let's say baseball or weightlifting and training, where the freedom to fail, the permission to fail, and the learning in failure has been so embraced that it's cultural. And you think about, getting into the gym and getting stronger, everyone accepts and agrees that doing 3 sets to failure is what makes you stronger.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're not going to failure, if you're doing 3 sets of 10 and you're easily getting up number 10, it's kind of common knowledge in the gym world, like you're not growing if you're not getting a failure
great
at
analogy.
some point.
Yep,
Yeah.
never thought
And we've
of that.
embraced that, but then we get into the business world or the baseball world and we're thinking we need to go 10 for 10 and I missed one of them, when in reality
So
a great
great.
coach, a great mentor will kind of put his arm around your shoulder and say, no, that's what we're supposed to do today. We're doing 3 sets to failure and we're going to now have the failures to reflect on, right? Without that gap of goal versus what you actually hit, we don't have a gap to coach to.
Yeah.
And now we've got this cool opportunity to get a little better.
Yeah, I love
I
that.
love a
That's
great coach, right? Having a
good
gap to
analogy.
coach to.
Yeah.
All right, so where have you seen failure show up on your personal journey, right? Where you've learned something from it and it looked like a
End of the
huge
road.
roadblock
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
past, but it actually became, maybe your biggest fuel, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, so I have many of them. I could fill a whole nother podcast with just the failures that I still haven't
We're
learned
gonna do that
from.
next
Yeah, that's
episode.
next time. I'll share one with you. Before being in real estate, I was in the nightclub business and owned a nightclub in the
could see
suburbs
that.
of LA. Yeah, I was learning lead generation and people
like it.
promoting it,
I love
before I knew what
can
it
see
was.
that too.
And I got out of that business for some obvious reasons. It's everything you think it would be, being in the nightclub business, late hours and so on, and having a family, and I wasn't a drinker or anything. So sold the nightclub. My wife was in real estate, and I thought, well, I'll go get my license to start helping you out because she was getting ready to have a kid, and we're in between businesses. I'm going to sell my business and do something else, and I didn't know what that was. And the escrow period for selling this nightclub ended up taking a long time. There's a lot of legal, processes and so on. I got my real estate license. There was this season where I felt like just such a failure. Like I had nothing going on. Did I make a huge mistake? All I have in the bank is this money I'm getting from the sale of the business with no idea of what I'm going to do next. I get my real estate license thinking I'm going to help my wife, but my wife couldn't start real estate because she had to keep her license with the builder for maternity leave. So I'm on my own now. I've stepped into real estate. And that sensation of feeling like a total failure, I went to work every day and was, learning from the people around me, asking questions of anyone that I could just get to talk to me for 5 minutes. If I could buy them coffee, buy them lunch. I'm asking these top producers and people that I perceive to be successful, what is it they think I should be doing? What should I be focusing on? And so on. And I was working every day. And I'll tell you, I went into that office 6 days a week. 8 hours a day, doing these very simple early on lead generation tactics that mentors will teach you. And I felt like the biggest failure every day, day after day, nothing. And it took me 3 weeks to finally get my first contract. And I walked in, it was a listing. My first contract was a listing. And so after 3 weeks, 21 days of just looking like an idiot, going home empty handed, feeling like a total failure. And I get this contract, and as I'm inside the office, some of the ladies and, the nicer people in the office start encouraging me and patronizing me. And just, pat me on the head with the, I can't believe you did that. That's such a good job. And I was so annoyed, felt like the biggest loser. Every time someone gave me a compliment, I believe they were just rubbing salt in the wound of how I just worked for 3 weeks straight. Right? What I didn't know at the time was that for a new agent, that was pretty good,
insane.
right?
Yeah.
I was only looking at the failures of I came in here every day for 21 days straight before someone got me to, allow me to sign that. And I'll tell you, it wasn't by about the 10th person that I thought was patronizing. I said, listen, I need y'all to stop. Like, it's really starting to get on my skin. I don't need your patronizing encouragement. Someone pulled me inside and said, no, this is really great. I didn't know that. I was just so focused on what I thought was the standard of what I need to do. So that was a lesson in real estate specifically. I gave myself permission to slow down a little bit and not have to have this instant result. Oftentimes the success is a thankless, encourageless, routine of doing some, habit for maybe months sometimes. Moses was in the desert for 40 years before the reward came, and I'm complaining about 21 days.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that before, right? I mean, I've always said my realization was that if success for me in real estate was whether I signed a contract that day or not, I was going to have more failure days than success days. And I didn't. And so I started, my wife would ask, how was your day? And I would say, I followed my schedule, right? And that became my barometer or my test of if I was having a good day or not.
Right.
And you realize that there is no secret sauce. It is time on task done consistently over time, right? It's knowing the right things to do, which I think is number one if you're new to real estate or struggling in it. Number one, knowing the right things to do. So you're looking for evidence of success. Where can I look around and see where other people have had success? It's simple, not easy. So then you take that and you go, if that works, right? And we all know our database is our foundational piece to the business. If that works, how do I do that consistently until I get a result? Knowing that there's nothing wrong with you, right? For some agents, it does take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, right? They really struggle. And some of them I was part-time for the first 9 months in the business. I sold a house within 2 weeks of getting my license. I thought I was a rock star. I didn't sell another house for 7 months, and it was my mom's. She took pity on me and let me list the family house. And so I go I'm a slow learner, but again, it's time on task done consistently over time. In this business, if you will find something, stick with it and work it, you'll have amazing success in it. And so kudos for you for doing it and for being so hard on yourself, right? That's probably speaks to who you are. The thing you hear from most of the people on this podcast is your work ethic, right? Your willingness to do the work, right? That was my phrase for the year. It was do the work. There's so many conversations and reasons not to do the work, so many distractions that can come up around doing other things. Simply do the work, especially in this market, in this environment, right? You got to show up, you got to have the conversations, whether you're in leadership, recruiting, sales, whatever that is.
So I'd add to that because I agree with that. And what I'll add to that is that there is this balance of doing the work and perseverance and pushing while not just convincing yourself that the perseverance and pushing is going to be the only thing. At a certain point, you're pushing yourself against the wall. You got to stop and reassess where you're pushing.
That's right.
So having that balance of pushing and getting through tough times where someone else might have quit and you're willing to persevere, while simultaneously having the humility again to listen to the people that are helping you and guiding you, and listening to their advice. Like, hey, instead of pushing through that wall, there's a door right there. You could just walk right through it. Meanwhile, I'm like, I will never give up.
Well, that's the KW environment, right? That's why people 100%. Are so attracted to the Keller Williams Market Centers, the Keller Williams Way, is because it is this. Let us show you best practices, right? There are only a couple of great ways. If you boil it down, it's why there are models, right? The models are just the sum of top agents' businesses. And if you'll follow those, right, it will show up to your point, if you're doing it over and over and over again and not getting the result, then there's a skill issue there. But you also it's why the KW model works. It's why teams are, I think, so valuable. It's because you have someone there not only showing you this is the evidence of success, we have a proven track record. If you do X, you get Y. Then you got a coach investigating it with you to kind of go walk me through your steps. Let's see your conversion rates. Where are you failing? Where are you succeeding?
I would say just one last comment on that too. As a coach, I recognize that if I'm coaching someone and I recognize that their obstacle has to do with mindset. If the mindset is the obstacle standing between them and their goal, 9 times out of 10, what I discover is that person is spending time with the wrong people. And what I mean by that is they could either be isolating themselves and they're not in the right environment, or they're spending time with the with the people that are getting them to focus on the wrong thing.
That's right.
9 times out of 10, I can help someone with their mindset by just changing their environment.
Sure.
You got to
Sure.
get around the people
Yeah.
that think the way you need to think to have the thing you want.
That's right.
Right. And absolutely, whether it's on a team or an environment like Keller Williams, hands down, that's something that we do well, is create that productivity-based work environment where we're encouraging each other, correcting the behaviors, through the pack mentality.
I love it.
Well, great advice, right? As we kind of wrap up here, I mean, your leadership is phenomenal, right? I love to watch how you
Thank
lead
you.
people.
I appreciate that.
When we see, think about it, right? Life's done. You're at the end, right? You've
Yeah.
had this successful career, this amazing family. You're looking back. What are you concerned might be your biggest regrets? What are you thinking about?
Looking back on life, what would be my biggest regrets? I think, and I'm not quite through the life, hopefully. Just turned 46, so hopefully I still got a good couple seasons left.
I didn't know you were that young. I
Yeah,
thought you were
yeah.
much older.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's why, keep friends like David. What I think I would look at is I actually did a pretty good job of keeping a work-life balance when it came to family and work. There's some times that I had to sacrifice career opportunities in order to prioritize what was more important to me and my family. And I'm not saying I did it perfect. I'm saying that I don't regret that. I did it well enough that I feel good about that. Where one regret is I think I waited too long in my late 20s through my 30s. I waited too long to prioritize my health. I prioritized my family, I prioritized my work, and it wasn't until hitting my 40s that I realized the energy that comes from having a healthy lifestyle really catches up with you. And prioritizing that, it felt a little selfish when you're building and a family and so on. I think that's one regret that I look back and say, man, being in my 20s and being in my 30s, if I had the health and energy I had in my early 20s and my teens that I kind of gave up in my mid-30s.
Yeah.
I think that's one regret. And it's an advice that I give to younger people is don't sacrifice the relationships, number one, but also your personal health, maintain those things.
Yeah.
If there is another one that in the last few years I would say is borderline a different person just from life experiences and so on is I make it my intentionality to let people know when I care about them, I want them to know how much I care about them. There was probably too long in my life that people that meant a lot to me didn't know how much they meant to me. And you get a little older and you realize whether it's a business mentor or a friend, I've really learned that giving someone a hug and telling them you love them and patting them on the back and telling them how much they helped you and things like that, the gratitude that comes with acknowledging the experiences that we're having together, like that was a regret that I had started to build and thought, you know what, I'm not going to let this be one anymore.
That may be one of the best answers we've ever had. I love that.
I appreciate
that.
that.
The intentionality around telling someone they're important to you.
Yeah.
Right. Because everybody wants to hear it, right?
Yeah.
And we assume that people know it. So,
Yeah.
thanks for bringing that up, guys. If you're on your journey and maybe some of your buckets aren't full, right? Spiritual, mental, physical, business, financials, any of those things. I teach a class called Quantum Leap as a KW instructor. Happy to share that and really go deep on the lifestyle of that balance, so that I always ask that question because hopefully we all look up and learn something and go, well, what can I be doing now to prevent that? But also just understand that no one ever says, I'm going to have the regret that I didn't work hard enough, or I'm going to have the regret that I didn't have enough money, right? It's always around the other buckets. And so I hope that we're all intentional about that. If you're listening, that you're being purposeful around your spirituality, your physical fitness, your mental health. And if you aren't where you want to be, that's okay. Most of us aren't, and it's part of the journey for us to seek out opportunities. Guys, if they wanted to get in touch with you, Bethany, around level 8, and also Rob, how to get in touch with you if they just want to meet a really cool cat and hang out.
Yeah, Rob Talbott. I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram. Reach out to David. He's got my cell phone number.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. Yeah, and I think if you want to be a part of more of these conversations or looking for an environment that talks about these things and really helps you grow, please visit us at www.level8platform.com. We'd love to talk.
Thanks for being with us, brother.
Thank you for having me.